Good morning. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie Laurel. It's the start of a new trading day. Let's kick off with our banner story. NEDA says the country will achieve its GDP growth target of 6.5% to 7.5% this year if the government ramps up its vaccination program in the second half. NEDA Undersecretary Rosemarie De Leon said a more substantial rollout of COVID-19 vaccines would renew confidence in the domestic economy. However, BDO Union Bank Chief Market Strategist Jonathan Ravela says full-year GDP may only settle at around 6% this year, even if the vaccination drive gains traction in the second half. That's due to prolonged quarantine restrictions. Ravelas estimates that it may take 1 to 3 years for the government to inoculate 70 million Filipinos. Malacanang earlier said more than 216,000 vaccine doses have been administered. Meanwhile, Moody's Analytics expects Philippine GDP to grow by up to 6.3% this year. That is quicker than its earlier projection of 4 to 5% growth. However, Moody's Analytics chief economist for Asia Pacific, Stephen Cochrane, said the Philippines' recovery is poised to be the most sluggish among Asia Pacific economies. He notes that the country still continues to struggle amid the pandemic and its fiscal policy is still quite limited. Cochrane also pointed out that the government has not yet developed an effective delivery system for its vaccination program. Okay, guys, kicking off the market report by taking a look at global equities, at least in Wall Street overnight. You can see quite a mixed picture here. The S&P 500 down by 1/10 or at least close to 0.2% yesterday. The Nasdaq, however, inching a touch. That was up by 0.09%. Now, you've actually have the S&P 500 snapping 3 straight days of record highs, and it's finally coming back down. This, of course, happens as cases worldwide top 120.5 million people, and deaths are now at 2.67 deaths. This is, of course, vis-a-vis the more than 383 million shots of vaccines given worldwide. Now, note that most of these vaccine shots are over in the United States and in the UK. Over in the US, you've actually got Moderna saying that the first children have now been dosed in a pediatric clinical trial of the vaccine. Meanwhile, you've also got in the US, the Federal Reserve beginning its 2-day policy meeting today. You've got Fed Chair Jerome Powell. According to some economists, he will likely be reaffirming his steady policy stance. Elsewhere, you've also got oil that's up towards $65 a barrel. Meanwhile, Bitcoin has been trading around $56,000. That's already down from a weekend peak where it actually reached above $61,000. Now, you can see over in Europe quite a sea of green, at least yesterday afternoon. But a lot of focus in Europe later on will be on the whole AstraZeneca story. That is, of course, after Germany, Spain, France, and Italy have now joined the suspension of the vaccine rollout. You've actually got, however, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi together with French President Emmanuel Macron saying they are ready to use AstraZeneca's vaccine again. That is, if the EU's drug regulator advises that it will be safe. You've got the European Medicines Agency now reviewing that shot. There will be a definitive assessment on Thursday. So all Brits are waiting on Thursday whether the AstraZeneca vaccine can be continued again. Now, let's take a look, of course, at Asia and how that is opening today. A different picture here with Asia, with the ones that are open in the green, of course. So not necessarily following the Wall Street slide, but very mixed because you've got Japan opening in the green, but over in South Korea, some losses here together with the Taiwan's TAIEX opening on a weaker footing. Now, let's take a look at our own market open here. Of course, this comes after we finally had some relief yesterday. We inched up. This, according to Luis Limlingan of Regina Capital, that happened after government officials said that they have acquired some 30 million doses of Novavax. Speculation is now arising, according to him, as to how soon these vaccines will arrive. This comes, of course, as we've seen fifth straight day of cases, daily new cases above 4,000 yesterday. And of course, we've had a lot of limitations to our movement. Philippines has limited the Manila airport arrivals, that's in NAIA, to just 1,500 passengers a day for 1 month. Starting tomorrow, you've got PAL saying they may be canceling some international flights, and you've got several tourist spots in Intramuros now being closed until further notice. Now, I just want to take a quick peek at a specific sector this morning, and that is the nickel sector. You can see on my terminal here how the mining and oil counter has been down by 11% year to date, but yet you've got global ferronickel also down by 10%. Nickel Asia is down by half of that amount. That's down by 5.5%. And some worse news here, at least for the prices of nickel. This, according to Fitch Solutions, those prices are seen to be coming off the highs that we have seen as more supply becomes available to the market. Now, in a report, they have actually upgraded their forecast to $15,750 per ton. But you can see on my terminal here how it's actually trading quite above that. It's $16,151, and we've seen quite the slide between February and to March from those highs, which were touching close to $20,000 per ton. Now, what are they saying? There will be an end of rainy season here in the Philippines. There will be more nickel activity here, and that is going to have a bit of an oversupply in the short term. But they did mention that in the long term, they do see nickel prices remaining on a gradual uptrend, especially as they forecast China's construction sector to continue to grow, especially the electric vehicle part of that business. Now, let's leave the markets to percolate and check in on specific stocks later on in the broadcast. Meanwhile, let's check in on the biggest headlines we're watching this Wednesday morning. NEDA says the Department of Water Resources needs to be established to better deal with private sector investors. Economic Planning Assistant Secretary Roderick Planta said a Department of Water Resources would be the private sector's designated partner in developing water resources. He added that unifying the management of more than 30 agencies involved in water resources is important. The Philippine Institute for Development Studies agrees with this. In a policy note, the institute said overlapping and sometimes conflicting regulations in the water sector is holding back the industry's growth. PIDS said the inconsistent levels of water service across the country is a testament to how water agencies often fail to coordinate policy planning, data monitoring, and infrastructure programs. To address these issues, PIDS said it is necessary to have a single coordinating body unifying technical regulations and operational standards in the water sector. Now, still on water utilities, Albay's 2nd District Representative Joey Salceda is urging the private sector to invest in water distribution projects for the farming industry. That is in order to meet the growing demand for water irrigation systems in the countryside. Salceda told the Philippine Star that more than 70% of water demand in the country goes to agriculture. But the majority of investments in the water sector are allocated for household and industrial use only. Salceda says the reallocation of private funds to water projects in the farm sector raises the necessity of putting up the Department of Water Resources. Once formalized, the new agency would be tasked to explore innovations that would allow private companies to maximize its resources. And another one from the Philippine Star, the Finance Department is backing a proposed law that seeks to establish a private pension system that will supplement those run by the government. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez said building a sustainable corporate pension would help secure the future of Filipino workers and widen the investor base of capital markets. The proposal, which is House Bill 8938, is centered on the establishment of an Employee Pension and Retirement Income Account, or EP-RIA. That is similar to a portable employee-managed retirement account in developed countries. The coverage will be compulsory for employees in the private sector and voluntary for self-employed and professionals. Secretary Sonny Dominguez believes that reforming the corporate pension system has become even more urgent as the country transitions to a knowledge-based economy. He adds that employers will also benefit from this since they will be incentivized to participate actively in the program. Okay, guys, turning our attention to specific stocks here. This, of course, as the index continues that bounce back, we are up by 0.2% to 6575.11. You can see the 3-day chart here. We're still in negative territory throughout the entire week, but we are down by 2.2% at least since Monday, and all of these restrictions were reimposed since Monday, of course. Now, let's take a quick peek at our leaders and laggards this morning, and also just year to date. Why don't we check on that? We've actually got year to date performers, only 4 in the green so far. So you've actually got First Gen leading that charge. It's up by 9.2%, together with ICTSI, BPI, and Emperador. Now, who are the worst performers so far in 2021? Robinson's Retail, URC. These are two, of course, Gokongwei companies hurting and having a pain of more than 18% of losses, close to 18% as well for URC. You've also got some property players feeling the pinch here. Ayala Land down by 12.4%, Robinson's Land as well, and Mega World, some of the worst performers. Now, let's take a look at this morning and the Wednesday. It's actually quite a mixed picture of those who are pulling the index back up, a recovery play. Now, recall we've talked to several analysts saying that there's no real clear-cut picture on which ones have been moving the past week. It's really a broad-based sell-off and then a broad-based bargain hunting. But you can see AEV up by 3.2% this morning, together with Aboitiz Power. Now, let's take a quick peek on that because I have some more news on Aboitiz. They have now decided to allot 48 billion pesos worth of capex for 2021. This is actually higher than the 69%, which was compared to the level in the previous years. Of course, in 2020, the bulk of it, or 23 billion, will be going to the power sector. They said on Tuesday. Now, separately, of course, they've also approved the listing of 8 billion pesos worth of bonds. That already includes oversubscription. Now, I also want to take a quick peek at the water stock, since we had reported that MWC, and we had checked in on that yesterday, was one of the best performers. Let's see if that's continuing that trend. Take a look at MWC this morning, up by 40 centavos. I'll just show you the 3-day chart rather, so you can see that surge here. It's actually been up by 2.3%. It's now touching 14 pesos and 90 centavos. This, of course, as people are banking on the fact that there will be new contracts. Maynila new contracts will be following suit soon. And finally, just one last stock before we end the broadcast. That is, of course, San Miguel. A lot of eyes are on, of course, the fact that Bulacan Airport might be broken ground finally in the second quarter. Now, recall this has been repeatedly postponed. Initially, it was supposed to break ground on December 2019, and now Transport Secretary Artugada is saying hopefully mangyayari na talaga by April or May of this year. Recall that the Bulacan Airport of San Miguel has still been facing several environmental issues. You can see San Miguel going against the recovery of the rest of the bourse. That's down 0.2% to 117 pesos and 30 centavos this morning. And that's a first look into the business day. Today is Wednesday, March 17, 2021. Catch Business World Live for the market close. That's at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danie Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.